At my mom's birthday brunch, I walked up with my kids in their Sunday best. My dad looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You shouldn't have come." I didn't say a word, just turned around with my kids and drove off. An hour later, my sister called. "Why did you lock the account? Mom's crying." I was so shocked I could barely speak. My dad had never talked to me like that before. Not like that. Not in front of my kids. Not on my mom's birthday. We had just stepped onto the patio, me holding a covered dish in one hand and my youngest gripping my fingers with the other. The boys were dressed in matching button-ups, their hair combed and neat. They were trying so hard to look nice. We even stopped at the grocery store earlier that morning to get Mom's favorite flowers. It was supposed to be a surprise. I saw her first, my mom setting out paper plates on the backyard table, chatting with my sister near the grill. Everything looked normal. Balloons on the fence, a happy birthday banner above the sliding door, music playing low through a Bluetooth speaker. It looked like any other family gathering. For a second, I thought maybe it was all in my head. Maybe this year would be different. Then my dad walked over. He didn't smile, didn't look at the kids, just stood there, hands in his pockets like he'd been waiting for this moment. And then he said it. "You shouldn't have come." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. My kids turned to look at me, confused, waiting for me to say something. Anything. My oldest clutched the small bag he decorated himself. It had a candle and a card inside, one he wrote the night before after asking me how to spell grateful. The silence felt endless. I turned around. No drama, no yelling. I just walked back to the car with the boys trailing behind me, still trying to understand what had just happened. We drove away with a covered dish still in my lap and their gifts unopened. I didn't even pull into the garage when I got home, just parked, sat there, and stared at the dashboard for a long time while the boys went inside. They were the only ones who didn't ask me to explain myself. An hour later, my sister called. I didn't answer. Then the message came through. "Why did you block my account? Mom is crying." I had given her access to my Amazon account 5 months ago so she could order vitamins, a few household things. She ended up spending over $2,500 on candles, skin creams, and throw pillows. I never said a word. Not until now. They had no idea what was coming. They thought I'd feel guilty, that I'd fold like always, cry a little, apologize, and ask what I did wrong. But I didn't. This was the last time I'd let them make me feel like an outsider in my own family. The text started less than an hour after we got home. I was still in the kitchen trying to rinse off the smell of coffee cake and patio smoke from my hands when my phone lit up. "Who is Jessie?" First message, "Why did you block my account?" Second, "Mom is crying. She says you ruined her birthday." Then came the string of guilt. "What's wrong with you? You didn't even say anything. You just left." The kids looked so confused. Dad said you were being dramatic. Again, not once did anyone mention what he said to me. Not one person repeated the sentence that shattered what little hope I had left. "You shouldn't have come." Apparently, that wasn't the problem. The problem in their eyes was me leaving. Quietly. Without a meltdown they could use against me later. I didn't give them the drama they were hoping for. I gave them silence, and it drove them insane. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat on the couch with the boys. They were eating microwave popcorn and watching some cartoon about space dogs. My youngest leaned his head on my shoulder and whispered, "Grandpa was mean, but I still like Grandma, just not today." That nearly broke me. I kissed his head and didn't say a word. They were the only ones who didn't ask me to explain myself. I hadn't even planned to block Mom's account. I'd let her use it for 5 months. She said she needed to order a humidifier and maybe some multivitamins. I said, sure. I wasn't tracking the orders daily, just letting it slide, thinking she'd be reasonable. But she wasn't. She ordered luxury candles, designer pillows, overpriced bath bombs, a set of steak knives she'd never use, and 3 different brands of collagen powder. I checked the total, $2,587.43, all of it under my name. And I still would have let it go. I swear I would have, if it hadn't been for that moment in the backyard. So I blocked her, canceled her login, removed her saved address, deleted the payment method. And then I sat there staring at my computer screen, heart pounding, and realized something else, something bigger. They needed me more than they'd ever admit. For 4 years, I'd been paying their utility bills, quietly. They never asked. They just expected it. Mom would mention the electric bill being late in passing, and next thing I knew, I was transferring money. Dad always left mail unopened in piles. Half their services were tied to my email address because I was the only one who could remember the passwords. I went into the utility portal one by one and canceled every automatic payment: water, gas, electricity, internet, all of it gone in 5 minutes. That was the moment something shifted. Not just the anger or the disappointment, but the realization that I didn't have to do this anymore. I didn't owe them convenience. I didn't owe them peace. They wanted to treat me like an outsider? Then they could learn how to live without the daughter who kept the lights on. It started the next morning just before 10 o'clock a.m. I was in the middle of helping my youngest glue a paper rocket ship together when the power shift began. Only this time it wasn't in my house. 3 missed calls, all from my sister. Then the first voicemail. "I'm serious, Jesse. This is getting out of hand. Mom says she can't log into Amazon. What did you do?" Then another one, angrier. "Are you really this spiteful? She said one wrong thing, and you're acting like she burned the house down. Grow up." Then the third one came in with a nervous laugh. "The Wi-Fi just went out at Mom's during her book club Zoom. She's freaking out. Dad tried to reset it, but couldn't even find the modem." That voicemail I replayed twice. They had no clue what was happening yet. They were confused, grasping at straws, still thinking this was some tantrum I'd snap out of. But they'd never lived without me running interference before. They had no idea how much I'd been doing behind the scenes, how much of their life was running on the systems I had set up. By 2 p.m., I got the first real sign that they were starting to understand. A text from my mom, just 4 words. "Did you cancel everything?" No punctuation, no explanation, just that. It didn't sound like her usual tone. It sounded scared, exposed. I didn't answer. 2 hours later, the gas company must have called them because I got another text. This time, "We have no hot water. What are the boys going to think of you when they're older?" That one I screenshotted, just to remind myself why I was doing this. She wasn't worried about the gas. She wasn't worried about her grandkids. She was worried about her image, about control, about losing me as the family scapegoat. And just when I thought they couldn't twist the knife any further, she sent a follow-up. "You've been unstable since Jason died. We all said it. You're just proving us right." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't respond. I just sat at the kitchen table for a long time staring at that message while my kids ran around in the yard with paper swords and ketchup stains on their shirts. I watched them laugh. I watched them be free. I didn't want this war, but they brought it. They used my grief against me, my generosity, my silence. So yes, I canceled the utilities. Yes, I blocked the Amazon access. Yes, I made sure their email inboxes would be full of payment reminders they didn't know how to handle, because for once they were going to sit in the discomfort they'd made me live in for years. And I wasn't finished yet. By the 3rd day, the storm fully hit. My sister left me 3 voicemails in the span of 20 minutes. I didn't listen to them at first. I was busy helping my oldest bake cookies for a school fundraiser. He insisted on chocolate chip, no nuts, because Grandpa always picked out the nuts anyway. He laughed when he said it, but I could tell he knew something had shifted. Even he didn't ask about seeing them again. Around 5 o'clock p.m., the house phone rang. No one ever uses that number except telemarketers and the bank. But this time, it was a number from Mom and Dad's neighborhood. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a new message popped up. I played it on speaker thinking it would be more begging, more fake tears. It wasn't. It was Mr. Carlson, Dad's next-door neighbor. He sounded rattled. He said there was water flooding down their driveway into the street. Said someone had tried turning on the front spigot and left it running. Apparently the pipes cracked when the gas went off and the water heater shut down. The whole crawl space was soaked. I sat down at the table and listened again. That was the moment I realized something strange. Dad hadn't called me himself. Not once. Mom and my sister were running around panicking, but he was silent. He hadn't even tried to text me. I checked my email out of curiosity. One new message from the electric company. The payment method on file had been declined twice. Service was pending disconnection in 24 hours. It would be so easy to fix. One click. But I didn't. Instead, I opened a private folder I'd kept on my laptop for years. Screenshots, messages, notes I'd taken after every holiday blow-up. Every time they called me dramatic. Every time my mom talked down to me in front of the boys. Every time they made me feel like I was nothing more than the widow with baggage. I wasn't planning to use it until my sister sent one final message that night. You know he's sick, right? He has an appointment next week for a scan, but I guess you don't care about that. That stopped me. I didn't know. No one told me. I stared at the message for a long time, unsure if it was true or just another manipulation. But something in me cracked, just slightly. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I called my dad. It rang 5 times, then clicked over to voicemail. I was about to hang up when someone picked up, but it wasn't him. It was my mom. She sounded calm, too calm. "We were waiting for you to break," she said, "and here you are." Then she hung up. That's when it hit me. They weren't panicking because they were falling apart. They were panicking because they realized they couldn't control me anymore. And now they were trying a new tactic. But it was too late. They'd mistaken my silence for weakness. They forgot silence can also mean planning. And I had plans. The morning after that call, I didn't get out of bed right away. The boys had poured themselves cereal and were watching cartoons quietly. They knew I needed the rest, and honestly, I was grateful for the space. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything, about Jason, about how he used to say, "You don't owe people peace if they keep burning your house down." I finally understood what he meant. By noon, Mom and my sister had switched tactics again. This time, it was sympathy. Mom sent a long message saying how tired she was, how hard life had been since I shut her out, how Dad wasn't doing well. Then came a photo. Dad sitting on their porch with a blanket over his knees, staring off like he was 1 foot in the grave. Maybe it would have worked 2 weeks ago. Maybe I would have driven over, cried, begged for peace. But not now. Instead, I did something I should have done years ago. I called the utility companies and had everything fully transferred out of my name. No partial holds, no pending balances. Everything gone. I told the rep to remove my email and phone number from every account. It was oddly satisfying spelling out my mom's full name and saying she'd need to set up a new account herself. Then I logged into the Amazon account one last time, printed the receipts for all her orders, and dropped them into a manila envelope. No note, no explanation. I drove to their house and left it in the mailbox. As I pulled away, I saw the curtain move. That night, my sister tried again. "You really don't care, huh? You'd let your own father die just to prove a point. I hope you feel powerful now." I didn't respond because I knew something she didn't. The boys and I had been invited to stay with one of Jason's army buddies and his wife for the weekend. They lived 3 hours away in a quiet town with a lake. The kids were already packing swimsuits and board games. I needed to be around people who knew what kindness looked like, people who didn't see my grief as a weakness, people who didn't treat my usefulness like a subscription service. I turned off my phone. We left early the next morning. As we drove out of town, my youngest looked out the window and asked, "Mom, are we not going back to Grandma's house anymore?" I told him no. He nodded. Good. She didn't even smile at my card. It hurt, but it also felt like closure. That was the last time I heard from any of them. It's been 4 months. No calls, no texts, nothing from my mom, my sister, or my dad. Just pure, empty silence. At first I thought it would hurt more, that I'd miss them, that I'd feel guilt clawing at me in the quiet moments after the boys went to bed, when the dishes were done and the house was still. But I didn't. The silence felt clean. What surprised me, though, was who did reach out. 2 weeks ago, I got a message from an unknown number, just a single sentence. "You were right to walk away." No name, no details, just that. I stared at it for almost an hour before replying, "Who is this?" No answer. The next morning, I checked the envelope I dropped at their house, the one with all of Mom's purchases. I remembered slipping one receipt inside that didn't belong to her, a $46 charge for something my sister ordered months ago, some online seminar on navigating narcissistic parents. I never asked her about it. I never mentioned I saw it. Now, I wonder if she was the one who sent that message. A week after that, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Inside was a photo of Jason, one I'd never seen. He was sitting on a bench overseas, sun in his face, smiling with a can of soda in his hand. Taped to the back was a note in tiny handwriting. "He always said you were the strongest one. You just didn't believe it yet. I still don't know who sent it. Maybe one of the guys from his unit. Maybe someone who heard what happened. But it landed in my mailbox like a full stop at the end of a sentence I'd been trying to finish for years. As for my parents, I don't know if their lights ever got turned back on. I don't know if they found someone else to fix things for them. I don't know if Dad ever got that scan or if Mom ever figured out how to order her vitamins without me. And I'm done wondering. What I do know is this. I'm no longer in the group text. I'm no longer the backup plan. I'm no longer the one who gets called when everything collapses. And I've never felt more at peace. The boys and I are good. We laugh more. We sleep better. We don't walk on eggshells anymore. And someday, I'll tell them the whole story, not to turn them against their family, but to show them what it looks like to finally choose yourself. Because the only thing more powerful than revenge is walking away so far they can't even find you to beg anymore. And I'm already gone. The first update. 8 days after the letter with Jason's photo showed up, I thought maybe everything had finally settled. The boys were back in their routine. I was sleeping better, and the house had that quiet rhythm that only comes after the chaos fades. Then came the knock. It was a Thursday morning just after 7 o'clock. I was making waffles, and the boys were arguing over which syrup was the official syrup of waffles. I barely heard the knocks over their voices. 3 slow taps. Not urgent, almost polite. I opened the door, expecting maybe a delivery, but there was no one there. Just a box. Plain brown paper, no return address, no markings at all. I brought it inside, half expecting it to be some passive-aggressive package from my mom, but it was too small for drama. It fit neatly in my palm. When I opened it, I stopped breathing. Inside was my wedding ring. The one I lost 2 years ago after that awful plumbing leak forced us into that temporary rental. I thought it had slipped down a vent or into the trash. I looked everywhere. I even blamed the cleaning lady in my head for months before letting it go. And now here it was, sitting in a small velvet pouch, untouched, as if it had been waiting this whole time. No note, no clue who sent it, nothing. I checked the porch camera footage. Whoever dropped it off knew exactly how to avoid being seen. It was like they knew my angles, my habits, even my morning schedule. I held the ring in my hand for a long time before putting it away. At first, I thought maybe it was someone from Jason's unit. Maybe they found it somehow. Maybe it traveled across hands and homes until it made its way back to me. But something about it felt recent, too clean, too precise. And now I can't shake the feeling that someone is watching the edge of my life. Someone who knows what I've done, what I walked away from. Someone who hasn't finished speaking. I don't know who they are, but I think they're getting closer.